Imagine surviving an accident so catastrophic that an iron rod pierces your brain. Sounds like science fiction, right? But the real story begins after the miracle, when what remained of that man forever changed our understanding of who we are. Today we will take a journey back in time to 1848 to meet Phineas Gage, the man who, with his incredible story, revealed to the world the most intimate secrets of our personality. His story is not just a tale of survival, but tangible proof that our brain is much more than a simple organ. It is the silent architect of our identity, of our character, of what makes us unique. Prepare to discover how a brutal accident opened a revolutionary window into the mysteries of the human mind, and why the case of Phineas Gage remains one of the most studied in the history of neurology. It was September 13th, 1848, an ordinary Thursday in Verdun, Vermont. America was in the midst of its westward expansion, and progress was quite literally on rails. Building railways was dirty, dangerous, exhausting work. Every day, strong and determined men fought against nature, moving rocks and digging tunnels to open new roads for the future. Phineas Gage was one of these men. At 25, he was a respected foreman, a natural leader, efficient and reliable. He was known for his professionalism, diligence, and ability to remain calm even in the most tense situations. He was a well-liked man with a promising future. His team was working near the town of Cavendish to build a new railway line. Their task on that particular day was to prepare the ground for a new explosion, a common daily process to clear the path of the most stubborn rocks. The method was simple, but extremely dangerous. A hole was drilled into the rock, gunpowder was inserted, sand was added, and then the whole thing was compacted with a long iron rod, the tamping iron. Gage was a master at this, a veteran who had performed the procedure thousands of times. His tamping iron was an imposing tool, over a meter long, about 3.5 centimeters thick, and weighing almost 7 kilograms. It was his working tool, almost an extension of his arm. That afternoon, while Gage was distracted for a moment, perhaps greeting one of his men, his tamping iron hit the wrong rock. The spark was instantaneous and fatal. The gunpowder exploded with unprecedented violence. What happened next is hard to even imagine. The shock wave sent the iron bar flying upwards like a wild bullet. The tamping iron passed through Phineas Gage's skull in a way that defied all logic and medical understanding of the time. It entered through the left cheek, just below the eye, penetrated the brain, devastating the frontal lobe, and exited forcefully through the top of her head, landing nearly 30 meters away, smeared with blood and brain tissue. The noise of the explosion and the hiss of the bar were followed by a chilling silence, broken only by the screams of horror from his teammates. The impact was devastating, but what followed was even more incredible. When his men rushed over, ready to collect the remains of what they believed to be a lifeless body, they were petrified. Phineas Gage was there, standing conscious. He was staggering, sure, and part of his brain was leaking out, but he was standing. He was speaking. "Dr. Harlow is my doctor," he said in a shaky but clear voice, "and I'll need him right away." The disbelief was total. How was this possible? A man with a hole in his head, walking and talking after such a massive object had passed through his brain? The witnesses were shocked, but Gage was there, a living miracle, albeit horribly injured. He was loaded onto a wagon and taken to his boarding house, where Dr. John Martin Harlow, the local doctor, was waiting to document every detail of this extraordinary case. His immediate abilities were astonishing. He could converse, recognize people, and remember events. But Dr. Harlow Khan, as the days and weeks passed, began to notice something strange, something that went beyond the physical injuries. The Phineas Gage they had known, the reliable, meticulous, well-mannered man, was no longer the same. The transformation was slow but inexorable, almost more terrifying than the accident itself. Before the accident, Gage was the embodiment of the good guy, hard-working, respectful of elders, kind to children, ambitious, far-sighted. He was an example of self-control and morality, an efficient and responsible team leader. But the new Phineas Gage was unrecognizable. He had become disrespectful, rude, vulgar, with a foul language that had never been his before. He was impulsive, prone to unreasonable outbursts of anger and behavior that offended everyone around him. His friends and family noticed that his personality had been radically altered. He could no longer hold down a job for long, as his unpredictability and fickle nature made him unreliable. He was incapable of planning for the future, of making informed decisions, of respecting social conventions. The faculties that had made him a respected man and a leader were gone. His judgment, his morality, his self-control seemed erased. His employers described him as a man so changed that he was no longer Phineas Gage. A friend said that it was as if his mind had lost balance between its intellectual faculties and its animal propensities. Phineas Gage's case astonished doctors at the time, who could not explain how such severe damage could allow survival and at the same time so profoundly alter personality without affecting basic cognitive abilities such as memory or language. What happened to Gage was empirical, undeniable proof of something that until then had only been a vague intuition. The brain is not a monolithic organ that functions as a single unit. His behavioral change was the key. Dr. Harlow, with scientific meticulousness, documented every aspect of Gage's rehabilitation and decline, including his inability to return to his original job. The scientific breakthrough came with the understanding that the damage Gage suffered was localized to a specific part of the brain, the frontal lobe. This region, which was still a mystery to science at the time, turned out to be the seat of extremely complex and subtle functions, such as planning, impulse control, decision making, emotional regulation, and in general everything that contributes to shaping our personality and social behavior. The correlation was clear. Damage to the frontal lobe had radically transformed Gage's personality, while leaving other cognitive functions intact. The Gage case was the first dramatic proof of brain specialization. It demonstrated unequivocally that specific areas of the brain are responsible for specific functions, refuting the holistic brain theories that were popular at the time, which held that the brain functioned as a single, undifferentiated mass. Gage became living proof that our impulse control, our ability to plan long term, our empathy, and our social interaction depend largely on the integrity of our frontal lobes. Without these areas, we are like a ship without a rudder, at the mercy of the currents and our most primal instincts. This fortuitous yet tragic accident opened a whole new door to neuroscience research. For the first time, it was possible to study the direct relationship between a specific brain lesion and an equally specific behavioral change. The case of Phineas Gage not only paved the way for modern neuropsychology and behavioral neurology, but also laid the foundation for our current understanding of how the brain is structured and functions. He revealed that our personality, our self, is not an abstract entity, but is deeply rooted in the gray and white matter found inside our skull. The brain is not a single entity, but a collection of specialized areas working in concert, each with a well defined task, yet all interconnected to create the experience of human consciousness and personality. Phineas Gage died 12 years after the accident in 1860, probably from complications related to convulsions, a late consequence of his head trauma, but his legacy is immortal. His skull, along with the famous tamping iron, is now on display at the Warren Anatomical Museum at Harvard Medical School, a powerful reminder of the complexity, fragility, and power of the human brain. His story reminds us that our mind, our character, our ability to love, to plan, to dream, are intimately connected to the health and integrity of our most mysterious and fascinating organ. Every day, neuroscience continues to build on this foundation laid by a simple railroad foreman, exploring the depths of the brain and, by extension, the mysteries of who we are. His final lesson is clear. The connection between our brain and what makes us human is unbreakable, a bond that defines our essence. If you enjoyed this journey through the history of science and the human mind, don't miss our next video. Yun yan, nagkwizal ko na ni siya siya, tinda sa ding